But we are going to start tonight with something that we've got exclusively. It's an exclusive story and some exclusive footage that's never been seen anywhere before tonight. A week ago, the story of the Trump administration taking kids and babies away from their moms and dads at the border. That story took a hard and seemingly irreversible turn a week ago when, for the first time, ProPublica obtained and published a recording of these little kids screaming for their parents inside a facility where the Trump administration had put them after taking them away from their parents. That audio recording of those crying, screaming little kids was made surreptitiously. It was smuggled out of a Texas border region facility. It was obtained by a veteran investigative reporter at ProPublica named Ginger Thompson. And when ProPublica released that audio recording last week, it proceeded to break every living heart in America. By the following evening, that recording was being broadcast on loudspeakers outside Trump's hotel in D.C. As people drove into the parking facility for that hotel to attend a Republican fundraiser, they had to drive past loudspeakers playing the sound of those screaming kids. The day after that, there were loudspeakers set up outside the White House, blasting that recording at the White House itself. By Friday, at the end of last week, Congressman Ted Lieu was risking censure in the U.S. Congress by refusing to stop playing that recording on the floor of the House. That audio recording of those distraught kids being taken away from their parents and screaming for their mothers and fathers, that recording smuggled out of that government facility, that more than anything appears to have been what turned the tide, what made the policy of separating kids from their parents unsustainable even for this administration. And the president reportedly now says he regrets having signed that executive order last week to end the policy. But he did sign an executive order last week to end that policy. I don't think the Trump administration will ever admit that it was that ProPublica audio recording that forced their hand. But ultimately, when the history of this American moment is written, I think that will probably be seen as the proximate cause. So the president and the Trump administration did cave and supposedly end the policy last week. Apparently that audio recording and all the protests and all the criticism and the lawsuits and the live wire of moral outrage and upset that they set sparking with that policy was enough to get them to kill the policy last week, but it has not been enough to actually get them to return the kids that they have already taken. I mean, the country's shame and outrage over that policy shamed them into dropping the policy, but they apparently are not yet shamed into any concerted effort to actually free the kids, to actually get those kids back to their moms and dads. The administration now says they've got well over 2,000 kids in custody that are kids they have taken from their parents. And although the government is now bragging that they're sure they haven't actually lost any of these kids, they definitely know where they all are. By and large, it seems that parents who've had their kids taken don't know where their kids are, and kids who've been taken from their parents don't know where their parents are. It is hard to know what it's going to take to actually shame the Trump administration into doing that work, into actually returning kids to their parents instead of just sending out press releases, pretending like the effort is underway when it profoundly, obviously, is not. Well, now we are going to advance the story a little bit further tonight. Tonight, we have obtained, for the first time, a video recording taken inside a facility that is providing services to some of these kids who've been taken away from their moms and their dads. This recording that we have obtained is from a facility that is not on the southern border. So these kids who've been taken away from their parents have been flown by the Trump administration thousands of miles to be held alone away from their parents. New York officials, including New York State's governor and New York City's mayor, Bill de Blasio, said they were outraged last week to learn that more than 200 kids were being held in a facility in New York City, unbeknownst to local public officials. Mayor de Blasio said no New York officials had any notice that the kids were being brought here. We learned that they were here when a TV news crew caught girls being moved in the middle of the night after they received a tip from someone who had come to learn that kids who'd been separated from their parents were being brought to New York City. Well, now for the first time, we can show you footage from inside that facility. These images were shot surreptitiously by a woman who worked at the facility until last week. This footage was shot late last week. The worker who took these images and took the footage I'm about to show you has since quit her job at this facility. She has provided this material to MSNBC and NBC News on the condition of anonymity, so we will not be giving her name, but we have verified that she in fact worked at this location. When we asked her why she surreptitiously shot this video at her workplace and took these pictures and provided them to us, she said, quote, "I am here today because I feel like it's important to make a difference. I feel that it's time for everybody to stand up and to stop being afraid and actually help these children that are being separated from their parents." She said, quote, "It's very heartbreaking to know that there's children, even if it were just one, but there's a lot of them in my program. And it's sad to know that these children are crying for their parents. They don't know where their parents are." She explained that there had been a huge influx of younger kids who have arrived at this facility in the last couple of months. And she said that clued her into the fact that this was as a result of a change in the Trump administration's policy. She told us, quote, "There was a huge influx. The amount of kids that are little, that are coming alone compared to the amount of teenagers, it's way higher. So that tells you a lot. How are these kids coming alone? That's not okay." They're not coming alone. They're getting separated at the border. As a teacher at the program serving these kids, she told us, quote, "We're not allowed to know what's going on with the child. We're not allowed to ask any of the kids questions. If the child is not okay, the only thing we're allowed to ask is, do you want to speak to your case manager? Do you want to speak to your clinician?" So she says, "I wasn't aware of anything that was going on until the news happened." And that's when I'm like, wait, what is going on? So that's when I do my own investigation. And I'm like, no, this is not okay. She told us, quote, "We're not allowed to hug the kids." She said we're not allowed to touch them at all, but she said, quote, "I decided not to follow that rule this week. This week I hugged them. I don't care anymore." So we just showed you some of the video and the stills that this source was able to smuggle out of this facility. The blurry areas in these images, obviously, are to protect the anonymity of these kids. Obviously, these kids are not in a position to be able to consent to us using their images, and so we are disguising their identity to protect them. But we've been showing you this video and these stills to show you a little bit about what it looks like inside. Here's footage of one little girl in particular talking about what is happening to her.
¿Tienes hambre? ¿Y por qué lloras? ¿Quieres hablar con tu papá? ¿Quieres hablar con tu mamá? ¿Quieres que llame a tu trabajadora? ¿Sí? ¿Cómo te llamas? Jessica. Ya, Jessica, no llores, ¿ok? ¿Tú viniste con tu mamá? No. ¿Viniste sola? ¿Con tu hermano? ¿Ah?
Con mi hermano.
¿Con tu hermano? ¿Y cuántos años tiene tu hermano? 10. Mira, agua. ¿Y dónde está tu mamá? ¿Eh? ¿Está en inmigración? No, ¿no sabes dónde está? ¿No sabes dónde? ¿Eh?
Allá en los estados.
¿En los estados? ¿No sabes en qué estado está? Oh, en Virginia. ¿Pero has hablado con ella? ¿O quieres hablar con ella otra vez? ¿Cuándo fue la última vez que hablaste con ella? ¿La semana pasada? ¿No has hablado esta semana? ¿No has hablado con ella? ¿No te han venido a ver para hablar con ella? Ok, so yo voy a mandar el mensaje. ¿Cómo te llamas otra vez? ¿Cómo? Jessica. ¿Y cuál es tu apellido para decirle al mister?
So again, this video was shot by a worker surreptitiously inside that facility. The worker who shot the video has since quit, no longer works there. That video was shot late last week. I should tell you, in the interest of full disclosure, that the worker who shot that video has made clear to us that she is critical of the policy of the Trump administration separating kids from their parents. But this is the first window that we have had into these kids' experiences. I should tell you that the Cayuga Center in East Harlem, New York City, where this footage was shot, is not the facility that is separating kids from their parents. The people who are working here with these kids are not responsible for having taken the kids away. They're receiving kids who have already been taken away from their parents or who are alone for other reasons. Kids are not staying overnight at this facility. The way it works with this one is they come there every day for day programs and services, and then they sleep at foster homes at night. But they're back there pretty much all day, every day. The worker who shot this footage and provided it to us is critical of the amount of staffing at this facility, saying that since the number of kids held in this facility has spiked, especially since the number of little kids in this facility has spiked, since the Trump administration started taking kids away from their parents, she says that the case management and medical staffing and the number of teachers and trainers at that facility has not kept up with the increasingly crowded conditions and the increasingly needy and increasingly younger population that they are now handling. That little girl who you just saw, who says her name is Jessica, we don't know the circumstances under which she and her mother were separated. Obviously, you can tell that she's upset. We obviously have blurred her face, so we've not included her last name here as a way to try and protect her anonymity. But I just want to say here one other thing about this footage before we get to some reaction to what we've seen here and before we speak to the attorney who is now for free representing this worker who took this footage and smuggled it out of there so people can see what's happening with these kids before she quit her job. What I want to say is that while what you just saw is the first smuggled video footage from inside one of these facilities, it is likely to be only the first, right? There will be more. When you take more than 2,000 children forcibly away from their parents, and then you don't make any concerted effort to return those kids to their families, when the government essentially abducts a very large number of children, including babies, and then scatters them all around the country to all these different facilities with no concrete plans to give them back to their families, that is too big an operation to keep secret. I mean, the reason we know the Cayuga facility in Harlem exists is because somebody tipped off a local TV news station when the girls were arriving and being moved in the middle of the night. The reason ProPublica got that first audio tape that cracked this story open like a nut is because somebody inside a facility got that recording to a lawyer who got it to a reporter who got it to you. This stuff is going to come out. It has to. It's too big an effort to keep under wraps. And the people involved at every step of this process know that too. So much so that there's one other small piece of tape I just want to play you. This is just audio footage. It's not video footage, but it was obtained by the same worker inside the same facility last week. And in this audio footage, you'll hear an employee from this facility talking to the kids. And the employee from the facility is essentially warning the kids themselves, hey, don't talk to the press. It's in your best interest. If anybody asks you, don't say anything.
Por mucho tiempo. No le estoy tratando de dar miedo, nada más le estoy diciendo que tienen que tener cuidado de no hablar, porque mientras ustedes están aquí, ustedes también le estamos protegiendo. Nosotros estamos tratando de ayudar a ustedes para que se reúnan con sus familiares o con quien sea a donde quieren venir acá. ¿Entendido?
If you tell a reporter you know what's going to happen to your case, it's going to be on the news. And then one doesn't know what's going to happen. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm just telling you it's the truth. You have to be careful not to talk. While you guys are here, we're protecting you. We're trying to help you guys. Don't talk to the press, okay, kids? Or we don't know how long we'll be able to keep you here. Got more ahead, including the lawyer for the woman who obtained this footage. New York's mayor will also be joining us. Stay with us.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.